Hello, this is Keith All, and welcome back. Today is going to be another deep dive into Excel versus Python. And today we're going to focus on the average IFS function in Excel and how we could utilize that in Python. Now, this data set was created by ChatGPT, and it's just basically customer ID, age, gender, location, the product category, and the sales amount, and whatever date that it was sold on. And it roughly has about 1,000 records in here. So today we're going to answer a couple questions regarding the average sales amount. And let's go over to the first example here. We're going to ask the question, what are the average sales amount for female customers in New York or in Los Angeles? So in other words, we want to get the average sales amount for female customers that fall within New York, or we're also going to get the average sales amount for female customers in Los Angeles. So we're going to calculate two different amounts. And then once we do it in Excel, we're going to jump over to Python and see how we could do it there. So first of all, I'm going to create some drop-down data validation lists. We want to get some unique values for our data set so we could, make this more dynamic. So I'm going to click on the cell and we're going to press for a shortcut Alt A V V data validation, and then we're going to press Alt A to jump to our correct field here, and then scroll down and we're going to press tab into the list, and then we're going to select our source. So what we're going to do is we want to get a unique value list for genders within our data set. So I'm going to click over here, Control Shift down arrow, Control backspace. Let's press enter a couple times. And now it gives us a unique list of values in our data set here. So today we're going to focus on female customers. So now we want to get a unique list of locations. We're going to do the same thing, Alt A V V, and then Alt A to jump down to our list here, tab into that, and then we're going to select the location column. Control Shift down arrow. It selects everything within the location column. Press enter a couple times. Control backspace. That brings us back up to our beginning of our data set. And as you can see, we got some unique values here. So we're first going to be looking at female within New York. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this down to the next location here. And then we're also interested in females within Los Angeles. So now let's get the average sales amount for female customers within New York. So we do that by using Average IFS. Tab into that. What is our average range? What this means is, what are we trying to average? Well, we're trying to average sales amount. So our average range that we're going to select is the sales amount column. Control backspace. Now we want this to be fixed. Oops. Escape out of there. Function F4 to fix that. And then we're going to tab into the next argument, comma. Now, what's our criteria range? Our first criteria is the gender. What do we want to select the average for? Well, we want to look for female customers. So the criteria range for that is the gender column. Control Shift down arrow, Control backspace. And we also want to fix this because we're going to copy this formula down one row. And then we want to get the criteria? Well, we want to be able to select female out of this range here. So we're going to select our cell here. We're going to fix this function F4. And then what's our second criteria? Our second criteria is going to be the location. We want to look for females within New York. So we're going to select the location column here, control backspace. We also want to fix this function F4. And then what's our criteria? Our criteria is going to reside within this field right here. Now we're not going to fix this because as we copy this down to here, we want it to be able to pick up Los Angeles. So I'm going to press that, press enter. Okay, that's that. We'll verify this in a second. We're going to copy this down here. And as you can see, we got two different amounts. So how do we know this formula worked? Well, we could go to our data set, click anywhere within our data set, Control-Shift-L will turn on our filters for our data set. So let's first filter by female. So we want to go to the gender column. We want to deselect that and select female. Now selects all our female records. Now we want to select the New York location. Let's deselect that and select New York. Click OK. Now let's go over to the sales amount column. Go to the top value, Control-Shift down here. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I had a cough, so let's go back up here. Let's go back up to the top and reselect this. Okay, when you select everything in a range, Excel at the bottom creates these stats for us, and it's going to calculate the average of the sales amount. So as you can see at the bottom, it says 278.14, and that's what we got here. Let's also verify this amount. Again, we're going to keep it as female, but this time let's deselect and let's select Los Angeles. Do the same thing. Control backspace. Down here at the bottom, it says the average, 275.03. So now we know this formula works. Now let's see how we could perform the same thing using Python. Let's go over here. Okay. Now let's first of all, let's create some code. I already copied some formulas in here. And don't worry, I'm going to explain everything that you see here. So let's first import the libraries. Let's cut this. I want to do a B to add a cell below this. So the first thing is we want to import the pandas library. Control Enter to execute the cell. Okay, now let's create a file path. A file path is just basically a variable that points to our data set. Okay, so I'm going to create a file path. This variable name is, you can name it whatever you want. And all I'm going to do is type in the name of my data set. Control Enter to execute this cell. And I didn't have to put any dots for the file path or the backslashes because this data set exists in the same directory as this script that I'm running. So now our next step is we want to read in this data set into our data frame in Python. So B, so now I want to create a variable name for the data frame. I'm just calling it df. And then I'm going to use the pandas dot read underscore Excel method, and I'm going to pass in our file path name, file underscore, this is the variable that we just created above, and then let's press enter, and then DF again. I'm just doing this so we could display it. So control enter. It reads in the data frame, and it's going to display. Just a second. Let me see what I misspelled down here. Okay, just a second. I just misspelled the name of my file. It's not data load, it's called download. Sorry about that. Control enter. And now let's go over here, control enter again. So now it read in the file name. Now, as an extra added bonus, I'm going to tell you about what it does is Excel, or what this read Excel method does. It reads in our data set. Let's go back to Excel. Let's go over here. Let's go to the first tab. It reads in our column names, but if we don't specify what index that we want, then Python automatically creates another column basically with an index value. But if you don't want that, and if you want, let's say, customer ID as your index, all you have to do is pass in another parameter called index underscore col equal to 0. And basically what this is remember, if you don't notice already, it's our indexes start with 0 first. So basically 0 is pointing to our first column in our data set in Excel. So this would be index 0, index 1, index 2, and so on. So let's go back over here and let's rerun this line of code, control enter. And as you can see, now we got rid of that index column basically, and now our index is our customer ID column. So as you can see, it did run it okay. So now let's go on to the next step to get the average sales amount for female customers in New York. And we're going to run this step by step, and I'm going to show you exactly what this code is doing. So first, I'm going to comment out this code here so we could see what's going on step by step. So I'm going to press enter here. And how I commented that out, this is Jupyter Notebooks. And the comment is that you select what lines you wanted commented out, and you press Control backspace. And that's how I get all this comments here. So let's first figure out what this is doing here. And we're going to go from the inside out. So first of all, we need to determine, okay, for each row in our data frame, which one are females. So we could do that by taking this condition here, okay, I'm going to Control C, Control V, and then press Control Enter. And as you can see, it returns a Boolean series. So it's going row by row, determining whether or not that row has a gender equal to female. So that's why we get false and trues here. Now, remember, Python is going to do this all at once. So that's number one. Number two, it's going to look for this condition here. Okay. So I'm going to Control C. It's going to create another Boolean series. Okay. Control Enter. And as you can see, it returns another Boolean series. So basically what this is doing, it's taking your data frame it's accessing the location column. That's why we got square brackets here. So it's looking for the location column, and then once we get we know that we want the location that we're looking for. It's using the isIn method, okay, of the pandas data frame object, and we're going to pass into that method the values that we want it to look for. In this case, we want to look for New York, and we're passing it a list. That's why we have square brackets here. Square brackets signify a list of values. If we wanted more list of values like Los Angeles or other locations, we could pass that in there too. Okay, but right now we're only using one location here. So that's what that does. Now, when we individually, what Python does, after it individually creates the condition for this one and the condition for that, it's going to combine the two. So now we're going to do it together. We're going to combine this together. Data frame all the way over to here. Okay. Actually, we're going to copy. Let's do this. Control C. Control V. Let's clean up this code a bit. Oops. Don't want that. And we got to close out the end of this with a square bracket. Press Control Enter. So what it did was it looked for these conditions first, combined both of them. Once you combine two Boolean series together, it matches up the trues and falses, etc. When it finds a true and a true together, it returns that row for the data frame. And so that's what this other section does here first. You have a data frame, you have a square bracket, and it tells it that we want to filter it by these conditions that fall within these outer two square brackets. And as you can see, it brought in the female and all the New York locations. So we got that. So now, once we have that, we want to tack on the sales, this look right here. We want to include this amount here to get the average. So it's saying that within this filtered data frame that we got here, that we got returned here, we want to look at the sales amount column and we want to create the average for that. Now in Python, mean stands for, basically is the average. So let's press Control Enter. And as you can see, it brought back this value here, 278.137. It didn't round it off because I'm not rounding it at this point, but let's go back to our Excel sheet here. Okay, so we got 278.14. So it created the exact same amount. Let's go back over here. And again, this right here, what this is doing the exact same thing that we did up here, but the only thing that we changed is the condition. Instead of we're looking for New York, we're looking for Los Angeles. So let's press Control Enter. We got 275.02, rounded up would be 03. So as you can see, it did the same thing. So that's one way that we could use the average IFS. Now let's work on a more complicated example. Let's go back to Excel. And here we're going to answer this question here. We want the average sales amount for customers who are older than 30, and then we want to group that by location. So what does this actually mean? You'll see it in a second. So we're looking for all rows in this data set where the gender is equal to is greater than the age is greater than 30. Once we have that, then we want to group that by location. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to create a helper column in Excel, and we're going to this helper column, I'm just going to name it age flag, and we want to determine whether or not this particular row where the age is greater than 30. If it is, we're going to flag it. So we're going to use the if statement. If this value here, okay, is greater than 30, if it is, let's backspace. If it is, we want to put a value in this column that says older than 30. Again, you could name this whatever you want. If it isn't greater than 30, then we're going to just say younger. Close that out. Okay. So this if statement basically, if this is greater than 30, we want this value to be older than 30. Otherwise, it's going to be the value younger. I'm going to copy this down our data set by hovering over this right corner and doing the autofill by double clicking it. Okay. So it now created all our values for this column. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a pivot table. So let's go over to our data set. This is not an Excel table, but we could still insert a pivot table. Shortcut key is Alt N for insert, and then V T to insert a pivot table off of this data set. Now we don't, I'm going to do it for existing worksheet. I'm going to scroll up here. Let's go over here. Let's tab over here and then click OK. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to create our pivot table, and you'll see this is going to be more clear what this means up here. So what we want to do is we want to put the location in the rows area here, because we want it to be grouped by location. And then we want to take the sales amount and we want to get the average. By default, Excel sums these values, but we want the average sales amount. So we click on this here, click on value field settings, click average, and click OK. Now our next step is we want to be able to filter this by female customer, or not female, customers who are older than 30. So we want to take our flag column and put this in the filters area. Let's go up here. We want older than 30. Click OK. So now this is the average amount, okay, for customers who are older than 30, okay? So basically, for Chicago, it selected all the rows in here where the gender or where the age was older than 30, and then we averaged the sales amount for the Chicago location and came up with this value here. Now let's go over to Python and let's do the same thing. Okay, now we're down here, and I'm going to explain this too. Okay, I'm going to run this line of code, and then I'm going to explain what's happening here. Let's Control Enter. And so as you can see, it brought back our grouping here. We got the location list here, and we got the average amount per location. So let's look at Chicago. It says we have 266.508, or basically 51. 266.51. Okay, so that's correct. Let's look at New York. We're looking at 280.44. New York 280, 43, rounded up, it's 44. So we know both things are calculating it the proper way. So basically what this is doing first, from the inside out, we first want to look at the data frame. DF with square brackets of age, it's saying that we want to look in our data frame for the age column. So, and then once it knows what column we want to look at it, we want to compare the age column value. Is it greater than 30? If it is, it's going to bring back a Boolean series, okay, with trues and falses. Once it does that, then it's going to group by. Now, with the group by method, we're going to pass it in. What do we want to group by? We want to group by the location, which is what we got here. So it knows that. And now once we know that, it's going to say, okay, we want to access this. What do we want to group by? We want to group by the sales amount. So we want to create this, get all the values for the sales amount per location based upon whether or not that row has an age greater than 30. So it does that, and then it calculates the mean on the sales amount. Again, the mean means average. So that's how we're able to get an average group by location where customers are older than 30. Again, hopefully these tutorials are educational for you to learn about how we could do things both in Excel and Python. They work a little bit differently, but once you know the differences, you could easily do these type of calculations and these comparisons in both environments. Again, I want to thank you for stopping by and spending your time with me today. Again, please subscribe to my channel, and also please like and share this video because I know other people out there want to learn this stuff. Again, thank you very much for supporting this channel. I look forward to the next video, and I'll see you then. Bye now.